Welcome back, Free Spirits. Today's guest is Shannon Michelle, someone whose story is a powerful reminder of what it means to rebuild when life gives you no roadmap. After a devastating motorcycle accident that left her in a coma and erased much of her memory, followed by a breast cancer diagnosis, Shannon did not just recover, she reinvented her life. Today, she is an author and speaker helping others find presence, purpose, and strength after trauma. Shannon, welcome to Flying Upstream.
Hi, thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing.
I'm so excited to talk to you today. So, before we talk about everything that happened, I
Yeah.
want you to help us understand, how do you describe who you are today?
Ooh, I am an insightful, powered woman who is hoping to share and help guide others through trauma. That's the person that I feel like I am today, post all of my chaos. I'm an author, speaker. I love to, again, just share in what route it took me to kind of recovery in with my heart and my brain and my body. Like all of it was twisted and broken, and it has taken windy roads, let's say, to get to a place where I could find peace and kindness to myself mostly, you know.
Yes. And I I can imagine that getting to the place you are today has been more than just a journey. It's been trauma, getting over the trauma, getting over that trauma, and everything in between. So,
Yeah.
take us back to the life before the accident. You had success young, you owned a company, you were writing, and you had just sent your daughter off to college. What did
Yes.
that chapter of life feel like for you?
I would say when I think back, and I've been able to reboot most of my previous life in my brain because it took a long time to reboot and reload into my brain, honestly. Um, and I was just happy that honestly I was at a point in my life where my daughter was off to college, and I had to just focus on me and not being the best mom. I had a company, so I was a boss to a lot of people, and we had gone through COVID and we had to close and open and adjust for so much because of the COVID part of our lives. And then the accident happened. And so but again, from what I've been told, because I don't remember specific details, my interior design business was huge and blooming, and I had so many clients and so many projects going that they were like, kind of like, what do we do with all of this? And I, again, that's how I lived my life. I just connected with people and loved my work, and loved my motorcycle riding. It was my Sunday school. I used to ride with a group. I had been riding for 5 or 6 years before my accident, and that was like vacation for me each week. Like I just got on my bike, and we did a lot of Pacific Coast Highway and hills, and I just felt like I was having a day in my week where I just got to explore and view beautiful things, and that was my Sunday school, and that's the day the accident happened. So, yeah.
When you look back at that version of yourself now, what stands out to you in a new way that maybe you hadn't realized before?
Oh, there's lots of that. I'd say the core part is that I did not like to be too vulnerable or too seen for who exactly I was. I was very good at hiding parts of myself that, like, my childhood was very messy, and I didn't want people to see me as a messy person, and I got to a place where I could cover up all of the old trauma to be the new person. And I found that with my brain recovery, I had to reboot and relearn myself and my life. And my youngest childhood days is what came back first. So I was like I went from running a company to being a child, and then things shifted to me relearning and exploring who I was and learning who I was. And I'm still, the core of me is still the same person, but I just love that I am such an open book now. I'm like, look at all my breakies. I mean, I have been broken in so many pieces, and I giggle at it now because I've got a lot of scars all over my body, and I remember having to get used to that too. Not just the eye patch, but like, I have multiple scars from my accident because my body was. We can get into that, but anyway, yes, that is. I think that's where I was at in my life when this all happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that reflection of looking back and realizing that you had gotten really good at covering up things from your past, covering up feelings, pushing it down, just kind of being like, yeah, everything's fine. You have your one day of the week, you get to go on your motorcycle and be free and it feels good, and kind of ignoring the rest of that part of your
yeah,
life, And I
yeah,
think so many of us do this completely unintentionally, right? Like
definitely.
we're not like trying to be like, oh, I don't want to talk about my childhood, but it just naturally happens, and it's part of human nature, right? Obviously, we don't want to think about things that are painful. It doesn't feel good. And
Absolutely. And I think we learn sometimes to regulate like how somebody is or how I'm viewed by what I've been through. And it's a bad habit that anybody has because I now think, oh my God, I was honestly a badass kid. And that's why I built a badass business. And then I had a badass motorcycle accident. Holy shit. And then all of a sudden I'm like, in this life have needed to be broken and rebirthed so many times, and I'm like, now I sit with it and go, that's where all the strength came from.
yeah. Can you share with us what you know about the accident and what your body went through, especially being in a coma for months?
Yeah. So I've been told, because the thing with my traumatic brain injury is, I was thrown up in the air from what that people have said with the reports and stuff, like 30 to 40 people, 30 to 40 people, feet, not people, in the air. I still sometimes search for words with my brain recovery. So that moment, I'm like, that's not the right word I'm thinking of. Um, and crashed down and basically put me and they had to put me in a coma for a few months because the brain trauma was so severe. And it basically deleted my memory, like I'd say a chunk of time before and a chunk of time after my accident that I never want to gain. I don't want to remember my physical accident. I'm hoping that it doesn't somehow come back to me because when I've been told what has happened to me, thrown up in the air, crash down on your head, and here's where the miracles happen a little bit too, not a little, a lot. Is like there happened to be an EMT on the beach in front of my accident. He ran up and said, "If you don't get her in a helicopter, she's gonna die." Like it was like all those, let's just say, moments that saved my life in a sense where I was supposed to come back was, and some gentleman blocked all the cars from riding over me because he was a motorcycle rider. He saw the accident and he wanted to protect me that way. And so all these little moments that I'm sitting here for, be able to talk today. And they drop shipped me to UCLA. And I said they kept me in a coma for a few months, trying to bring down the, I don't know what the right terms are, swelling and the brain trauma mess. And then they also had to do a lot of surgeries to put my body back together, new hips, a lot of things were broken, like both wrists, like it was very messy. So they put me back together. And then about 3 months later, I was allowed to come back home, and because I was 2 months in the like major hospital, little over 2 months, and then another hospital, and then care because I couldn't walk because they had to put me back together. So they wanted to make sure that I could try to start walking again before they let me go home. And I'm like, oh, but my birthday's that following week. Can I just get home before my birthday? And they're like, but you can't walk yet. I said, I don't care. I'll be in the wheelchair. Like whatever I get, I just want to be in my bed. And they did. They let me come home a little early, and it was, again, there were moments that I appreciate, even though they were horrific.
I Yes. So first, let me just acknowledge, like, terrible is not even close to the right word for what happened to you. I mean, just beyond tragic. And I really appreciate how you're saying there's all these little moments and people that just happened to be there that
Hmm.
led you to be where you are today, right? The
Yes.
EMT that just happened to be there, another motorcyclist that blocked the cars, all, as you said, all these little things. And,
Yeah.
something tells me that wasn't a coincidence.
It
That,
wasn't.
yeah, yeah, those were really meant to be
Yeah.
there. And I like that you're calling that out and having love for those people and for those moments that it all happened in that way and all led to where you are today.
Yeah, yeah, I
That's
do
great.
appreciate. I appreciate each step, each conversation, each moment, and I also have had to get very comfortable with the idea what I'm going to retain about my life is limited to the person that I used to be. I used to be able to. I ran my business and everything was in my head, and I lived my life really through my being able to retain things. And now I'm like, it's a little messy. I don't know what I'm not. I don't know what part of this conversation I'm going to remember, but I know that I stay present and I just express what comes through me because I think there's a lot of channels and angels always surrounding me. And a part of my story, and which I talked about as well in my book, is I have a whole chapter on floating because what I do remember, I don't remember the accident, but I know being mid state. And I remember and feel like the sense of me deciding to come back into this body was a part of my journey as well because it was, again, quite messy. And I, I could I could feel it, and I was surrounded by angels is the best word to use for me right at this moment, but there's not even words that would describe what I was in the essence of. I mean, it was, oof, it was empowering and beautiful. It also makes me not worry about dying. Like the whole idea, like I almost died, and now I'm like, I'm living my life. I don't have to do it in a harmful or a, a way that I will hurt myself or hurt anybody else. But I also have no fear because you never know what the next day brings.
Yeah.
And we think we do. I ran a company. I raised a daughter. I was doing all the right moves. I like that was me. And then all of a sudden, I was like, "Who's that?" But it's good to do that. It's good to re-see yourself. It's good to find a place where you are allowing yourself to be present and new in each day. You know?
It is. And, if you're open to sharing, I'd love to hear more about that moment where you felt like you were out of your body, as you said,
Oh,
and
sure.
had to make the choice to come back. Like, what was that like for you? Did you feel like you
Oh,
wanted to come back to your body, or it was the thing you should
there
do?
was
What was that like?
there There was, so here are some more blessings as well. And again, whatever words you want to put around it. I, my father figure had passed away previous to my accident, but only by about 8 months. And I remember being mid state and him kind of pausing me because I think I did not want to come back. And I just remember him kind of just like calming me down a bit in a way. And those are again the words as a human being that can say those things, but it's hard to even use words to describe what that essence was. And so he was there, and I feel like he was a part of the reason why I paused and did come back. To the point where and angels and abundance, but to the point where when I woke up from my accident, like when they finally let me out of the coma, I asked about Bill. I'm like, where's Bill? Like, I thought he was right there. I didn't remember that he had passed because
Wow.
he was the part that I do remember about where I had just been. And so there's those layers of knowing that what I experienced and what I remember also is for a reason. There's a reason why this brain could retain these beautiful spiritual moments and let go of the tragedy of my motorcycle accident because that's
Yeah.
again, the yin and yang of stuff, you know? Like how do you find, how do you, I say, how do you find yourself again in each day? Because that's what comes to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that too, and especially the part that you are no longer afraid to die. I think so many of us are just petrified, and
Yeah.
the thought is just beyond horrifying, but you, as well as many of my past guests, have said the same thing. Like, it's actually a zillion times better than we could ever imagine.
There's a relief, there's a
Yeah.
safety, there's a kindness, there's a softness. I mean, those are again my words. People can use different words that have experienced it, but it definitely. See, this is the thing that somebody has said that to me a few times about other people saying who have been mid-state, and I haven't really spoken to and connected with somebody who's been through such a severe trauma and come back in a way that I have, that there would be a similarity of sorts in what that felt like. It's something I have to explore a bit.
Hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So you had this experience. You're
Hmm.
waking up from your coma now. How did you begin rebuilding an identity when memory could no longer anchor you in the way it does for most people?
I, at first, got very overwhelmed and depressed, I'd say, because I could wake up and I could just only focus on what had happened to me and how that could affect others was at the top of my like, not even how do I fix myself, but I'm like, oh, how awful that must be for others. Like I had to get out of the mix of not doing the self-care first, because I was that person that always gave and didn't necessarily put myself above everybody else as far as the self-care. And so I got to a point where I would, in my all my layers of recovery, I'd have to wake up and just, I learned that not all I could do, but the strength that I could find was from staying present. And I would wake up in the morning to the point where, I mean, something like I used to love taking a bath, but I would need somebody to help me get in the bathtub and get out of the bathtub. And then I remember getting proud that I could get myself down, but then I'd ask my daughter, I'm going to go take a bath and I can put myself down, but you're going to have to lift me up. Like little things like that, that again brought me joy. Like looking out at my birds brought me joy. Um, Remembering that I was remembering myself brought me joy. I remember the first time I had a dream. I'm like, oh my God, I just woke up. I had a dream.
Ah,
Like,
wow.
and previously I loved, I that I could access easily. And it took a while though, again, with the brain to not just experience it, but remember it is kind of part of that, is how the brain works, you know? And
Yeah.
the brain is, um, it's such a separate part of us that I don't think we always understand that. We try to relate what we think with who we are, and we have to just stay with who we are, and that will help train the brain.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did
it's
that answer the question?
yeah. It's really amazing to me. I'm always hearing stories about how powerful our mind is. It
Hmm.
can work for us or against us. And
Absolutely.
I can remember a friend telling me that during COVID, she got COVID and she lost her sense of smell. One of her most favorite things was having her cup of coffee in the morning because she would take that big sniff in and she just loved the smell of it, but she could no longer smell, and it was really sad for her. And so she had to remember the smell while she sniffed in, and she did this like 5 times a day for a couple months, and finally it came back to her.
Come back. Yeah.
But it's really incredible that we really can use our mind way more than what traditional science tells us and kind of what our society tells us to expect, that it's truly so powerful.
It is. And it's also just finding it to be empowering by how you train it, and use it. And sometimes it gets in a circle of repeat, and allowing yourself to see things differently and experience and feel things differently so that you can expand and grow, I think is a big part of the, at least for me, again, the brain recovery part is like I had to see myself differently, and I had to even express myself. I remember with some of my friends and my daughter, I would say I had to relate Shannon Michelle 1.0 to Shannon Michelle 2.0 because they were so different. And the person that I used to be in certain ways had changed so dramatically that people that were close to me that had known me for years and years had to get comfortable with the new me because she was similar to the old me, but she's so different as well. And sometimes you get comfortable with certain relationships and people and how they are and how they, support you and talk to you and communicate. And sometimes that changes, and you have to be able to want to adapt to the new person no matter what. Like, it doesn't have to be this severe, like just you and your child, your husband, whomever, your friend who always counted on you in a certain way for something, and then all of a sudden you couldn't count on her in that way anymore. You
Mhm.
had to adjust, like, or they had to adjust, and that's an interesting thing to learn as well, is adjusting to something that's uncomfortable, and you decide how you could adjust to that, not
Mhm.
the other person, but you.
Mhm. And to me, that kind of goes in the bucket of self-care,
Yeah,
right? Which is like, but I think people don't really think of it that way, right? As you
I
said
agree.
initially, you were like, "Oh, I'm so sorry that all these what happened to you affected all these people around you that you love and care for." And then it's like,
Yep.
"Wait a minute. How do I feel about it? And what do I need right now to feel good and safe and happy?" And I love how you're saying you moved into taking a bath and you're like, I still need help to do it, but I'm going to do it and it makes me happy and it brings you
Yeah,
joy, right? And like
yeah,
that's the important stuff, right? But it's so hard for us
absolutely.
to really wrap our head around that in that
Yeah.
way.
Well, and again, I think if everybody, which is, I think, also not always the easiest thing to do, is to stay present. Like, when you wake up in the morning and she was wanting to smell coffee, eventually she was able to smell coffee, but she had to be patient. And she said to stay present with herself, and the changes are going to happen. And again, in each moment, how do we stay present, enjoy this moment, and then be guided as to our next moment, but don't try to over sort out how we're feeling or what we need, but just be present. It'll speak to you. The guidance, the insight, the yes, nos, and maybes, they will all come if you listen, you
Yep,
know? So,
absolutely.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
So finally, you're starting to rebuild your life and you were diagnosed with breast cancer and you had another significant challenge to face. Did
Yeah.
surviving the accident change how you approached cancer treatment and healing?
100%. But it also taught me that I was wrong because yeah, seriously, like I thought, more could happen to me. I pretty much died and came back. I mean, cancer. Then when they gave me the diagnosis, I kind of laughed and I called my daughter because she was still in school and college. And I said, I got the call, so I've got to share this with you. I've got, they're going to give me some options. And I told her, and she's like, Mom, this isn't funny. And you have to actually focus on not your brain recovery. And I had more surgeries that I still had to do at the point when I got diagnosed. She's like, you can't focus on your wrist and your arm and your eye. You have to focus on the cancer. My daughter had to tell me to focus on the cancer. And I'm like, yeah, but and so then I went through this process of, um, you gotta take it out or go through, do that, do this. I'm like, one surgery, that's all I want. And then one surgery turned into two surgeries, which turned into stage one, which was stage two, almost three. Like, the layers of cancer was not done. Like, it was a wake up call to, just because you've been broken doesn't mean you can't be broken a little bit more. And I had to get comfortable with nothing more could happen to me. It needed to be not in my mindset. And I think I thought so much tragedy had happened that more couldn't. And until I realized to not look at myself or my life like that again, then it was this freedom of just living in each present moment and doing the best I could. Right now I'm cancer free, so I'll share that because it was,
Congratulations.
yes. And, but it was two surgeries and my daughter driving me every day to radiation for 6 weeks. And I mean, there's layers I'd say your story, because I was just about to say your story, but my story, that we have to accept the trauma, accept the sadness so that we can navigate and learn from it and grow from it and let it teach us whatever it's there to teach us. And I think that's important because that's hard to do too. Acceptance of trauma is not easy.
Yeah.
Acceptance of misunderstanding or I don't know how to put the rest of the words around that one, but I think you understand.
Well, I really appreciate that presence is a core message in your work. What
Yeah.
does staying present actually mean to you now?
It allows me to see myself in a freer way, a softer way, because I would again get frustrated by the limitations of what I could remember. And it was hard for me and for the people that I love, like, my daughter. Mom, you already told me that, or yes, I told you that 3 times. Like, to have that on repeat was hard to hear, that I had already accessed something, said something, or was told something, but I can't retain it. Um, that that part is why I was like, I can only stay present. I can't worry about what has happened or what will happen. This is it. This is my life. Today is my life. This is it. This conversation is my life. This moment is my day. This is what I'm learning and growing from and sharing for me. And that is what staying present for me looks like. And again, a lot of people struggle with staying present. They are always looking at what has happened or what will happen. And I'm hoping somehow that just the concept in the word, or the two words of staying present, is kind of impacts us in a way, like post-it notes everywhere. Stay present, Shannon. And I also come to realize now, because my brain recovery is so good, I forget certain parts of my recovery. I forget, like, I'm trying so hard, and then all of a sudden I'm like, don't waste your brain energy on that. Just stay present, Shannon. Just stay present. And I'm now even having to remind myself to stay present so that I can have a good life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Shannon, you've shared so much with us today, and I've got one last question for you. So, for someone listening who feels like their life has been erased or completely rerouted, what do you want them to hear right now?
Be kind to yourself and stay present. Those are the things that I would say to anybody that's dealing with any kind of chaos or tragedy, is just be kind to yourself and know your worth sits there, and let the things that speak through you, through your heart, not your brain, stay with you, because your heart tells you everything. Listen to your heart. Don't try to sort it all out all the time. Just listen to this. Yeah.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you,
Thank you.
Shannon. Those are really wise words to end on. Thank you so much for sharing your story today with such honesty and depth. Your journey really is a powerful reminder that healing is not about going back to who we were, but learning how to move forward as who we are now. And what stands out most is your message about presence, about choosing to meet life as it is, even when it's uncomfortable, uncertain, or painful. And
Yeah.
that is something we can all take with us. Thank you so much for joining me today, Shannon.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, I have a beautiful website too if anybody's interested. StephanieMiracle.com. I don't know if I said that yet, but please take a peek.
Amazing. Thank you.